Welcome to Empowering Seniors, the web series. I'm Catherine Ambrose, your host, and I am so honored to be on a Zoom call today with Bruce Nemovitz. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and you did a great job on my name, I think.
Thank you, because that can be a challenge sometimes. I love people that put their thoughts into writing, and I read cover to cover, You're Moving in the Right Direction, The Senior's Guide to Moving and Downsizing. It is an excellent book. I agree with everything that you wrote in here, and it is an easy read, and I can see why it's a bestseller. And I've also purchased your book, Guiding Our Parents in the Right Direction, and as you can see, it's like brand new, and I'm very anxious to read that soon and then maybe do a follow-up. But the reason I want to talk to you today is because we are in the midst of this coronavirus epidemic, and it is scary. And the seniors that we work with, the seniors that you work with, they are the most vulnerable in this. I think everyone is vulnerable in this, but certainly seniors are so vulnerable medically to this, but also I just have such a heart for them being isolated in their homes. And so I wanted to address that with you today. And you and I had an interesting phone conversation the other night, and I was astounded by your perspective on it, because you really enlightened me, and I think that you're on the right track. So you've been working focused with seniors for 30 years. I've been a realtor that long, and I've served seniors over that time many times. My husband and I have. We have not been focused solely on seniors. It's only been the last year and a half that I have been so hyper focused on it. And so I appreciate that you've been doing this for 30 years, and I want to hear your perspective. What do you think when things calm down? What do you think seniors are going to be thinking about all of this?
That is an incredible question, and it's probably one that we won't fully know the answer to till we get through this, because the country has never seen anything like this before. But before I start, first I want to say to anybody listening that my heart goes out to your families, to everybody. Realtors, we're self-employed. We don't know how that's going to be going in the next few months, but we'll get through it, because I've been in this a long time, and I've gotten through many other recessions and that type of thing. But what I wanted to share with you is that today is my mother's 94th birthday, and she is at a senior community. She is in sort of a lockdown, and that means that she can't go down to the dining room. She's been in her room. They're bringing her meals for like probably the 2 weeks so far, and maybe the next month. And today's her birthday. How do you like that? On April Fool's. So we just called my mother to wish her happy birthday and sang to her. And so when you ask me a question like that, there's so many emotions involved with older people. And when I say older, I mean even, over 70, 75. They're in a home that may be not working for them. They may have had thoughts of moving in the last 10 years, 5 years. And so now they're in a situation where they're isolated. And I think the toughest part is the fact that they're isolated. And because they're vulnerable, they really can't get out. And this thing is going to probably last, another month or so. I hope no more than that. So they're looking at the home thinking, I should have done this sooner. Many of them are saying that. And I think when this passes, I think many, many people are going to say, I don't want to ever, ever, ever go through this again alone. Because it's not just that they're isolated, it's that they're vulnerable, meaning there could be a health change, and now the hospitals are full. What if I fall? We see a lot of falls and broken hips and things like that. So I don't think they'll want to be in that position again. So I do feel that there's going to be quite a few people that are going to want to move to senior communities to be in a safer environment. The housing market strong, so I do believe when it comes back, we can get into a little of that, that they'll get a good price for their home, and then they can put that money in the bank and be in a safe place. And then if this ever did happen again, it may come back, who knows? They'll be in an environment where they won't be isolated anymore. They'll be with other people. They can talk. They hopefully will be able to go down to the dining room.
Mhm.
And so, again, this is sort of a time for people to think about where they're living. And some will say, I love my home, I'm never moving. And other people will say, I never want to be in this position again.
Mhm. Certainly, for people that are going to stay in their home, if they're not able to elbow their way through Walmart to get their groceries, and it's so scary going out there where people are not physically distancing the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
It's really, I think, an overwhelming situation. And it's great that we have the technology that we have so that we can communicate like this
Yeah.
and maybe order groceries to the house and that kind of thing. So there's some good things to help bridge the gaps. But I do think that being in a community where there's other people to check up on you and someone else is responsible, a
Right.
team of professionals are responsible for getting the food and keeping things sanitized and safe and preparing
Right.
it.
And I think another big part of that, for my mother especially, is medication,
Yeah.
to make sure that the meds are delivered. Most of the senior communities have their own in-home pharmacy services. So then they do have people administering the drugs. So it's really important, because when people are isolated again, they may run out of their medication, and then that can cause some serious issues.
And so your mother, she is staying in her room. Is that what that whole community is doing? Everyone's staying in their own rooms?
They are, I guess one of the fears is it could be maybe some of the people that are the person that are the cleaning services, and people bring the nursing services. If one of those people, unfortunately, did get the virus, they don't want to be spreading it. And if it did hit somebody, they wouldn't then spread it to the whole community. But they do go through the protocols of the PPE, the gloves, the gowns, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, so I think another thing I'd like to do is talk to senior living communities and find out how different ones are handling this. Um, so, yeah.
I have spoken to a few about that, and they're doing off-site meetings with people, and they are taking applications and then going through their finances, and they are getting medical exams and things like that, so that the people can kind of get a head start and be approved to move as soon as this thing does open up.
Okay. Well, I'm really amazed by the senior housing industry and how they are addressing this. They were the first industry by far to start initiating safety protocols. It was incredible.
I think it's because that first hit in the United States was in Kirkland, in Washington, in a nursing home. And
Right.
it was devastating. I mean, it went around so quickly. And I think that was sort of the canary in the bird cage, and sort of got the country into maybe an earlier start than they would have.
So can you explain what the difference is between a nursing home and some of the senior living communities that you and I might be thinking of?
Now, that's a great question. Nursing homes, in the old days, people averaged staying in nursing homes. Now, nursing homes or rehabilitation communities, that would be for extremely the care that somebody would need, such as rehab. They broke their hip and they have to be in a situation where they have constant medical attention. In nursing homes, the average stay, as I said, was 2 to 3 years, but today it's under 6 months. And the reason for that is most people that are going to the nursing home have already been in a senior community, and the communities are either independent care or assisted care. And my mother is in assisted care, where they get their meds delivered and then nurse visits them twice a day and that type of thing. And so they're now rehabbing in their own apartments, in opposed to the nursing home, which could be up to $10,000 a month now.
Mm-hmm. And so seniors that are living in independent or in assisted living, they would have maybe more of oftentimes an apartment where it is their own home within the community. And
Correct.
it could be a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, it could be a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or even more.
What I would tell you, just, you touched on the size of it. And the reason I wanted to bring something up on that, many of my clients, I'll go into their home. They've got a 2,500, 3,000 square foot colonial. The kids moved out and they cannot imagine moving into a 900 square foot apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll say to them, let me ask you, which rooms are you actually using? And they'll say the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom, and the bedroom. And you add that up and it's about 700 square feet.
Wow.
The rest of it is filled with treasures, as we call them.
Mm-hmm.
So then when they do move into, they find out in a way they have more space because they've now downsized, and they feel free from all that stuff that they had, and allow other people to use it also.
That's a good point. I like how you word that. In our logo for Empowered Senior Series, it is a person just getting out of that overwhelm. It's like,
Yeah.
like getting rid of all the extra treasures that we really don't need to hang on to, and just free ourselves from the things that have that we've kind of gotten buried. So what I found and what you mentioned in your book is that everyone that talks about a senior transitional move, there's one word that they use. What is that word?
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
Completely overwhelmed. When I go into a home, most have the deer in the headlight look. They just have this blank stare when they're looking at me, like terror when I first come over, because they see me walking in and they go, okay, this is really happening. It's the reality that hits when the realtor comes in. This is, getting serious.
Uh-huh.
And so they feel like they're the only people that ever feel that way. And I'll tell anybody out there, whoever's listening, it's almost 100% the feeling that most get. And the reason is, in my book, I talk about this, but we look at the reasons we don't sell. Okay, I can't sell because of the now COVID-19. No, can't sell my home. The 2008 recession, can't sell my home. You'll always find a reason why you can't sell your home. The weather isn't right. But what's really behind that is fear of change.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it in my book. I have done a survey about that, about 700 people. And fear of change is the number one fear behind all of the reasons of procrastination, is always fear of change. And that's the same for everybody. Nobody likes change, especially where you live or you've lived for the last 50 years.
Mm-hmm. I was really amazed by your survey. It's very detailed, and it's very interesting, all of the things that you uncovered.
Yeah.
Were some of those things surprising to you?
Yeah, I think, I sometimes thought, people would want bigger units. Like, I think one of the questions was, would you like a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom? And there was a large portion of folks that wanted just a 1-bedroom unit. They felt they didn't need the extra room. So that was one, because again, we do hear, how am I going to go from my large home to the new apartment?
Mm-hmm.
But as they start to look, many people end up with that. I think another thing that really was interesting to me is that when I asked, again, why are you, what holds you back? Another reason that was major, it wasn't that much of a surprise, but it was health reasons. But the big surprise was money was at the absolute bottom. And I would have thought, folks, geez, can I afford it? It's so much a month. Here's another fallacy. I live in my home for free, and they don't live in their home for free. We've done a chart on that, and it costs about $2,000 a month to live in a $200,000 home when you take in taxes and maintenance and everything else. So once they look at that, they realize it is affordable, but that's not what's on their mind. It's the fear of change. And again, my health situation is really weighing heavily on people.
So what we see and what the senior living industry sees, and really anyone that works with seniors, home health, in-home care, everybody, our greatest concern is that people wait too long because they have procrastinated and they wait and wait and wait until the health reason forces that to happen. And the outcome is never as good as if they made a proactive move. So maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, we call that crisis management. Crisis management is one thing that everybody should avoid, because when you're in crisis management, you now are faced in a rehabilitation facility where in many cases I get a call, they're not going back home. They wanted to go back, but they've now gone to acceptance. They aren't going back to their house. Well, now guess who's going to get involved? Their children.
Yeah.
And none of us want our kids to make our decisions because they have their own families and we really want to be independent. So, but unfortunately, when you're in that situation, you have total loss of control. Children are making decisions, maybe within 2 weeks, they got to come up with all kinds of decisions like how much can you afford? Where are they going to move? How are we going to downsize the home? When are we going to put the home on the market? And on and on and on and on. And all that is done at lightning speed, where it's sad because the person that's going there, the senior, they don't get to make these decisions. And if they had maybe gone earlier, they wouldn't have had that health change, because we find that people move into senior communities, stay much more healthy. They're fed 3 times a day, good meals. The falls are much less. Because in homes, they're not set up for seniors. Like you might hit that little strip between the kitchen and the living room, and there's a lot of falling there. My aunt just fell. She's 92, and she broke her pelvis. That's very, very common. And then unfortunately, there's studies, but folks over 85, 87 years old don't make it out of the hospital, unfortunately, if they break their hip or pelvis. So it's so nice if people can actually plan their move, take their time, look at the different communities, and be in a place that's healthy, and it really it extends their life and their lifestyle.
It's such a good point, because it's nice when maybe as a couple they can decide together and do the downsizing move together, and it's a journey, it's a fresh start together. Or widowed, sometimes kids will get involved. You'll have that one daughter or the one son that helps mom or dad, be a sounding board and work with them a little bit, but get somewhere where they can be happy and have better quality of life longer. Because living in independent living is really just like living in your own home, only without all the burden of having to ever deal with a roofer or a plumber, or who's going to go to the grocery store, and making the meals and all of that. It just takes so much off of you, so you have more life to live, and you can, I think, just be a lot freer and happier and healthier. And we see much better outcomes that way. And I think people have in their mind, I don't want to end up in an old folks home. I don't want to end up in a nursing home. And they're thinking about nursing homes from 30, 40 years ago versus the beautiful senior living communities that are available today.
That's once I tell people to get out and look and see what's available, because the options today, some of these places that are being built, and they're being built all over because builders are finding the interest rates are really low. This is a great time for commercial building up till those last couple of weeks, but they're cropping up everywhere. And when you go into these, some of them look like, hotels. I mean, places you would be honored to live in. They have high ceilings, they have wide hallways, which is really nice. They'll have a cafe when you walk in. Our old vision is going up to the door and seeing 20 people in a wheelchair sleeping, that kind of thing, which is not the case anymore. People are very active, and they start to get healthier as they live there. And Also, I find that men are more hesitant to move than women from my experience. Men are a little more territorial and they don't want to give up the big yard and the garage, that
Mhm.
they're not using.
So we have found that too. My husband and I have found that too. And I've done a lot of continuing education, and that is just a known. We see sometimes men eager to make a move because they're worried about their wife's health, and they feel like it would be better for their wife, and that she might enjoy the social environment, or she needs to be there where she's going to be healthier and happier, or something should happen to me. I want my wife to be settled
Mhm.
and be in a more comfortable position. So they do it a lot of times out of sacrifice too. We had someone that said, she gave me 7 children, and this is the least I can do. And so we do see that most of the seniors that we work with, the couples, the wife has put her foot down. Maybe throughout the marriage, the husband had his say on most everything. They agreed together, but a lot of times the husband was driving a final decision. And we see a lot of times the wife will just put her foot down, like, we have to do this. And the husbands can be resistant until they start to get into the swing of it. I've never heard anyone say that about men being territorial, but I do think that's right. I think you nailed it.
Well, I have a good story for you. I do many, many seminars at senior communities, and I was doing one, and the gentleman in front of me, he had his arms crossed like that, and I don't know if you can see that, but
Yes, yes.
yeah, I could tell he didn't want to be there. I could tell his wife kind of dragged him in, and so I said in the middle of my talk, I said, "Sir, you look like you don't necessarily want to be here," and I laughed.
Hmm.
He said something that we've all heard. He said, "You're going to have to take me out of my house in a box." I'm sure we've all heard that. And then his wife stood up and said, "When they do, would you please take your crap with you?" So
That's
that
good.
really
That's good.
happened.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
we've always heard that. My husband's working in the other room. That's why we've always heard that. They're going to have to carry me out of this house in
Yeah.
pine box, or they're going to have to carry me out of this house feet first.
Right.
So we've always heard that. We hear a lot of things. I mean, now that we're really focused on working with seniors, we hear some sad things. I mean, that they're kind of joking kind of on that, but we hear things like, I don't know why I'm still here.
Hmm.
And they'll even say, I wish that, I would just go, and not have to deal with this. And that's so sad. And I think that when they do make a decision to move to senior living, it can be such a tremendous relief. In what you said about men and their garages and their shops, most of us have had husbands and fathers that you have a leak and they'll say, "Oh, honey, I'll go home and get my whatever it is." Or you have something wrong with your car. "Oh, I'll go get my tools." And they are the caretakers oftentimes for the family, and they have everything to take care of
Right.
everything. And it's
Right.
hard to let that go because it's so closely tied to their identity.
Especially often we have basements, and I'm from Wisconsin, and we have basements in our state. I know every state doesn't have them. And we'll often see a whole workroom with tools and lathes and giant machines, and they don't use them anymore. The husband doesn't use it anymore, but he doesn't want to let it go, and it's very difficult because I think as we get older, a lot of our life becomes about loss.
Mhm.
You're losing some of your physicality. You're losing friends. You're losing family, and it's just seems like one more loss added to the other losses, losing your home
Mhm.
and say the tools and so on. So I think we as agents, when we go into a home, it's so critical to be cognizant of that and to try to get understanding. And most of all, the number one tool I think that everybody should have working with anybody really, but especially in the older adults, is listening. You have to listen, 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 and try to put yourself in their position. It's
Mhm.
really important.
Well, if you think about people that are in their 40s or 50s making a move and there's no cognitive or physical decline, they are very matter of fact. They're very capable of making decisions. They're making it for a reason, and it's much easier for them to go through the moving process. What I find sad today is that real estate companies are teaching real estate agents it's all about numbers, and we're in and out in 45 minutes for a listing, and if you don't get in and out in 45 minutes, shame on you. Well, my husband and I have been doing this so long, and our listing appointments are much longer than 45 minutes, unless there's something very different, because you are getting to know your clients and you are listening. And with seniors, it's even longer because we're also talking about everything else that's involved, the emotion of it, and what to do with all the personal property. And I was going to mention, this is another book I like, How to Say It to Seniors, Closing the Communication Gap with Our Elders. So this is written probably for the adult kids audience and for professionals, but I recommend this book to seniors all the time. David Soley talks about loss, like you were mentioning, and that when seniors can make their own decisions about their future, create a future by design, rather than have their kids or someone else come in and dictate, they're going to be a lot happier. Because if you think you were losing control with your hearing and your physicality and other things, wait till people start deciding for you everything else. And I think that, people want to be in control of their own destiny.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned the children. Many people are told by their children it's time to move.
Mm-hmm.
And the children speak in the personal pronoun I, wanting the best for their mom or dad. They're not doing it out of a bad intention, but it's, Mom, I think you should move. I'm worried about you. I. And then the parent feels like they're the child and with their kid as their parent. So it's important when children are talking to mom and dad to ask questions. Mom, is this house working well for you? Mom, the neighbors that you grew up with, they're all gone now. How do you feel about that? Getting into their feelings as opposed to I think, because that too translates to them. You just want this over with so you can go back to work and go back to your family. Mm-hmm. So it's really critical. In my second book, Guiding Our Parents in the Right Direction, is all about that. But the worst case I ever found, and this is why I started this, mm-hmm. I went on an appointment. And there was a daughter and a mother, and they were sitting at the table, and I walk in, and the daughter starts talking to me, never acknowledges that her mother is even there. And as I talked to them, she said, so when can you have her out? That's how she said it about her mother. When can you have her out of here? As if she was part of the furniture. Mm-hmm. I don't know that she was cognizant of what she said. When I heard that, I decided to educate myself and really, learn everything I could learn so I could help the children speak to their mom or dad in the right way.
Well, kids are going through this usually for the very first time when they're dealing with their parents. They are trying to figure this out. And if they have a tool like your book, that can be extremely helpful, because you do mess things up when you're doing something for the first time and they haven't had the opportunity to practice this process for 30 years.
Right.
And bringing in a professional to help guide a family through it could be very helpful. I think that some people could hear what you said or read your book and adopt that great way of questioning. But for some adult kids, it's so emotionally charged, and the kids are in a different phase of their life. Right. And it's hard for kids to get it. Like, Mom, I don't understand what's taking so long. Come on, this is the right thing to do. It's practical. I made a list of the things we should do. When the parents are in a completely different mindset and a different phase, they're dealing with loss, they're dealing with thinking about their legacy and how they live their life and what's going to happen next. It's a completely different phase of life than what the kids are in. Right. And I think that they can bring in someone like you and I that have the training and experience, or a gerontologist, a social worker, someone that is highly skilled at a senior living community, just get some consult from some other professionals to help the family. And so you've got maybe a third party in there free. Like, we don't charge anything, but we have training to help people through the process. I'm a certified senior housing professional and a certified senior downsizing coach, which helped me catch up in a lot of ways to this process. And then I'm just amazed with the wealth of knowledge that you have, that you've developed it by working with thousands of people.
I think the most important thing I ever did was putting a team together. It's very critical because remember we went back in the beginning, we talked about overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So now you walk in and you give them all your information and they're like, oh, that's great. What am I going to do with the stuff? It's easy for you to say, I'm not moving. And so I've put together a team, and I encourage other realtors in my educational program to build their own team. And the team includes a moving professional. And there, I think the NASMM, the National Association of Move Managers. And so any agent can find a good one. I also have on my team contractors that I trust because they have to do things to get the home ready. And when there's a home inspection, the buyer's going to be asking for a few things to be fixed. And I have the mover. I've got the estate sale guy. I got a guy that comes in and he writes a check for some of the furniture they want to sell. Mm-hmm. And then he gets it to completely empty. I got another guy that comes with a rental truck and he'll take out anything you want, take it to Goodwill. So it's important for any agent that's working with the senior population to put a team together of people, not just that they trust, but know how to respect and be patient with elderly people.
And we like to think that realtors would work as a fiduciary and not a functionary. It's going to depend on state and what the licensing allows. But in my state, we can be a designated agent. We're working for the homeowner to help them get the best price and terms. And I would encourage agents to hear what you're saying, that this is not just a real estate transaction. It is much deeper than that. And it does take a team of people and people that we're working with every day, and we can all develop and tailor our own senior protocol. So the moving company is following our protocol on how we want our senior clients and their family members helped. It's very detailed. And because we have a senior move manager that's counseling them through the whole thing and helping stage the move and figure out what's going to the apartment, what's going to stay in the house for certain family members, and what's going to stay in the house to be sold, the move is actually discounted. We have discount cards for our clients, plus they're just going to get a better rate because everything's so organized and supervised, and so it takes a lot less time for the moving company to handle that move. And we just make sure that everybody that's working with our clients, they understand how that works. And speaking of liquidating the stuff that is left over in the house, we'll often say that a garage sale is a way to get rid of the stuff you don't want, and an estate sale is how you sell the things that you love. So if the family isn't taking all of your treasures and you're having to choose what treasures are going with you, what happens to the rest? And so what's your philosophy on garage sale, estate sales, do it yourself, hire a professional?
Boy, it would take a whole nother webinar to talk about that because everybody has a separate situation. So in some cases, maybe mom is already, we talked about in rehab, and the children are handling the whole thing, and they've already kind of gone through everything that the family wants. And so now it's a matter of either having an estate sale. Usually they end up having somebody come with about a dumpster and about 3 truckloads, and they take everything out of the home and give it to Goodwill or wherever the children want it to go. But a garage sale, as you said, is probably something, these are the things I know nobody is going to want. We just want them thrown away. Somebody wants them, God bless them. And then an estate sale, we tell people, you know, maybe you want to take pictures of the things that really meant a lot to you. And sometimes their children, or they put a book together of the things that, you know, Dad was in World War II, and here he you know, got some sort of a badge for that, and you know, other things, that a piece of furniture they bought in Hawaii they've never seen in the last 30, but take a picture of it because the memories will go with you. But how nice to have a young person. You know, we, in our area, we have the women's battered shelter, and these women go there, they have absolutely nothing. They don't have a chair, a couch, a bed, anything. They're there with their children in many cases. So wouldn't it be nice to share some of their things with somebody that's really in need right now, rather than, you know, leaving it all for the kids to figure out? So this way you can kind of direct things and feel, you know, good about it.
I think that's a great idea. And we do a lot of living estate sales where we bring in a trusted, awesome estate sale company. And when I first started this, I didn't really have a lot of faith that people could get much money for their stuff. And it's been surprising. People have done really well with the estate sales. And then we've had clients that they want all of, I want all my husband's clothes to go to the homeless shelter for men, which is really nice. We just help them figure out whatever it is they're wanting to accomplish, how to do that. And I would imagine that you do a lot of living estate sales for your clients.
I mean, I don't do them. I have a company that I said that I work with, and they handle all the estate sales, and they do the packing and moving into the new community. And the nice part about that is when they come in, they will take a picture of their apartment. And then when they go to the new apartment, they will put things up exactly the way they were. This one was over the bed. This one was in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And within hours of people moving in, it feels almost like home again. And they're
nice.
You know, the rooms they're missing are the rooms that were storage facilities for their children and, you know, past treasures.
Speaking of the kids and the stuff at the house, there's nothing like a deadline to get the kids to show up and pick up the prom dress and the motorcycle and all the things that the parents have been storing forever. That's a good way to get people to spring into action. And sometimes they end up not wanting that stuff. You know, grandma and grandpa have been hanging on to all this stuff for a long time. And then when it comes right down to it, I don't want that. So
I wish my parents would have given a date, because one day they moved to a new community, and I said, "Where's my letter jacket? I was a wrestler. I had all these awards." I don't know. I have no record of my past. So, you know, please out there, give the kids a chance to get their stuff. But here's the other thing. The parent, when they're getting ready to downsize, first thing I'll hear is, you know, well, my kids are going to want this and that. Well, by the time it's over, the kids really don't want the stuff because they got their own stuff.
We'll often hear, well, my mom wants me to have that table and my mom wants me to have this. I don't have room for this. But there's a lot of guilt intertwined in that. So the communication between the generations is so essential. But every family is so different how they handle things. And we have some adult kids, they're like taking everything, and you're thinking, okay, that's going to be a future decluttering project for our move managers, because they are literally taking everything. And you think, boy, I don't know how they're going to get it in there. And then other kids might bring things from their home to the parents' home to be part of the estate sale, which I think is very smart. It's a good way to unload some stuff. And the estate sale companies, if you've got a good quality estate sale company, they're going to be really good at keeping track of who owns what and getting the monies to the right people. But it's, you know, because a lot of us, we just tend to bury ourselves in stuff over time. And so we've got to be really careful what we choose to hang on to and let some of those things go back out into the universe. It's sad, you know, when they want kids or grandkids to have things, but the timing isn't right or just doesn't happen. And so I would say have some courage that your items can go to people that will love and treasure them. It just might not be your granddaughter.
Correct. Yeah, I think I don't. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I sure can.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
Good.
making sure that I didn't miss out on any questions for you.
Well, I think when I go into home to talk about selling their home, I think initially, as I told you, we get the deer in the headlight look, and as we start talking and everything, usually I follow up my appointment with a downsizing professional so that they got my information and I've calmed them down and let them know that the house is going to sell. It's not going to be on the market long and you're going to get a great price. But they're not really listening to everything because they're looking at all the things around them. And so I tried to get the downsizing company to come over right after my appointment. After the two of us talk to them, almost inevitably I get a call from either the downsizing company or the senior I talked to saying, after talking to you and now I know how the stuff's all going to work, I feel like I can really do this. And they feel like totally empowered at that point.
It's fantastic because when people are resourceful and they gather information, so it's no longer just about emotions and how they feel, but they start getting information on what kind of equity position do you have? What kind of solutions do you have to take care of all these things? Oh, no, we don't have to fix that. We don't have to replace that window. We don't have to remove that tree. All these things that they're worried about. One meeting with you and all that can go away. And it's just hugely beneficial in terms of stress reduction.
It is. It is. So I think we can't do this alone. We can't do our job alone, and they can't move by themselves. I'll have seniors tell me, we've been working on this house, downsizing, and I'll look and it's completely full. And I'll say, how long have you been doing that? Well, about 2 years. We take a box over to Goodwill one day, and we're shredding papers. We've already gotten through 3 boxes of that.
Good.
And I think the average time when somebody tries doing it by themselves is about 5 years.
Mm-hmm. We're helping a family right now where the mother hasn't lived in the home for 4 years. A daughter has been kind of trying to go through things and also taking things to mom and saying, Mom, what do you want to do with this? I think it would have taken another 5 years to get through this process.
Yeah.
So even though we're in the coronavirus situation right now, we have a move manager inside that vacant house working on cleaning things up and getting things organized and getting it ready. And when she's done, the estate sale company will go in and organize and clean and price and have everything ready. So when we get the thumbs up to do estate sales, that house is ready to go.
Yeah.
And these kids sometimes have strokes and heart attacks, thinking their parents are going to be homeless because people haven't figured out what they're going to do in case of an emergency before. They're in rehab and they're about to be discharged, but they're not allowed to go home.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge, terrifying scramble. But even just going through the downsizing process, you hear about people having strokes. You don't want your kids that are in their 50s to have a stroke over the stress of all of this.
Exactly. And we talked about crisis management. That's what we want, to avoid. So that's why you and I, really devote so much of our time to learning everything we can learn so that we help people avoid crisis management. And everybody wants to be independent. That's the number one thing that everybody wants to remain till the last day on earth is independent.
Mm-hmm. And so if you can position yourself to stay independent rather than get to the point where the doctor or somebody is telling you have to do something.
Right.
So when do people know it might be a good idea to make a move?
I'll talk to people and get a call back sometimes in a week, sometimes in a year, sometimes in 5 years. And I really think it comes down to where they're at in their life. Some houses I'll walk in and the person will say, you know what? I don't like my house anymore. I'm ready to go. Other people will be crying, I don't want to leave this house. It's so different for every couple. There is no one answer to that question. It really depends on the folks that are living there.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the indications that making a move into a senior living community might be a wise decision?
Well, I think because of what we're going through, if it's okay with you with the coronavirus, I think it's important to incorporate that, because anyone who's listening to this is thinking, you're talking about all this, but that was another world ago. It was only a few weeks ago. It's like
Right.
we're living in a whole new world now. So, um, I think one of the fears is going to be, is my house now going to fall in value like it did in the 2008 recession?
Mm.
My stocks aren't doing really well now. I don't have quite as much money as I thought. But what I will tell you, and I've done a lot of studying on this, I would say in the last 5 recessions, 3 of them, the house values actually went up 5% on average after the recession. One went down only 1.9%, and the one that went down 20% was, the 2008 Great Recession. So in almost every case, 9/11, people start to what they call cocoon, because they're going, what's really important to me is where I live. That becomes the most important thing. And right now, interest rates are at all-time lows. They're, I think, 3.3 for a 30-year fixed. And for the young people, 87% still say that owning a home is their American dream.
Mhm.
So, the stock market may be going in reverse, but the housing has probably been the safest investment. So when it is time to sell, I feel that there's still going to be a shortage of listings. And I still feel that when we gain a little momentum, I think it might be August through September is going to be our new spring market this year. But I do think we're going to see properties hold their value, maybe go up a little bit.
Mhm.
So, if anyone out there is worried that houses aren't going to sell, they will sell. And there's a lot of buyers, that are ready to buy.
I think too that sellers, seniors are oftentimes concerned about deferred maintenance, that maybe for a number of years they haven't been able to keep up the yard or the exterior maintenance or the maintenance inside as much as they used to in the past. And that can be painful for them. And sometimes that helps prompt a move. Um, and I don't know what you've noticed, but I feel like for a couple of decades, we had young buyers and move up buyers that wanted a perfect home where everything is totally move in
Mhm.
ready. And I feel like today's buyers are different finally,
Right.
that we're back to the type of buyers that are willing to roll up their sleeves and make a home their own, and do some of those things themselves and enjoy that. Have you noticed that shift?
Absolutely. In fact, I have a young millennial agent that works for me, with me, and he runs around with the millennial buyers, so I know everything that's going on. He just bought a house. He just put in a new floor, wood floor himself. That's the thing. They actually can be pretty innovative, and they don't have a lot of cash because of their college debts and all that.
Mhm.
But and that's the other fallacy, is that generation can't buy a house because you need 20% down. They don't have any money. And as we all know, you only need 3% down. And so they're willing to put in the sweat equity if the home is a little dated, wallpaper on it. Lately, I've been telling people, leave the wallpaper up. They're actually, these young people are liking the 50s look now, as we call them, retro, or different names to them, but those 50 houses, they're starting to really like that old character.
Mhm.
So the key that I say to everybody is have it clean, and we can get services. We have cleaning services, and have the defects fixed. So if you have a bad basement, a bad roof, a bad furnace, if you're not moving right away, take care of those things, because as any agent will tell you, when there's a major defect, it's a deal killer. They'll triple whatever the cost really is. So I urge people to fix those things.
So we were just at a house where the main toilet doesn't work. But they have a plumber friend that can take care of it. And like, that's a good idea. Just taking care of just the basics is tremendously helpful. What about for seniors that clearly do not have the financial means to take care of even the simplest things? What do you sometimes advise them?
Well, we're going to always sell the home if they're not living in, or maybe they are. We try to sell it as is. That doesn't mean the buyer takes it as is. It just means we're not making any statements about it, so they don't come back to us after the closing, and they have to rely on their own inspections. But if the money isn't there, here's the other beauty of having a really good team behind you. I've had people that needed $20,000 basement repairs, and the company has worked with me for so many years. They will actually have done the work and got paid out of the closing proceeds.
That's amazing.
So that's why it's so critical that agents form these bonds, because it goes back and forth. And electricians, we have it all the time where they don't have the money to pay the electrician, so we have them do the work maybe the week before the closing, and then he gets paid out of the closing proceeds.
Because the electrician has a relationship with you and trusts you.
Correct.
And you built that relationship up. Also, like for a roof, we're in Kansas, and our philosophy is that probably no one should have to pay for a roof here. That there's probably coverage, and sometimes homeowners are turned down on a claim. And we have relationships with roofing companies that specialize in working with the insurance companies for an acceptable and fair conclusion. And oftentimes a roof is covered once you bring professionals in that know how to make things happen.
You know, Catherine, I was just going to say, as I hear you talk, what we're really saying is we're sort of like, you could think of us as an air traffic controller.
Yeah.
You know, we have all the sources at our fingertips, but they're trusted people. They're not people, because we all know that people take advantage of seniors and older people.
Absolutely. Sometimes we're just shocked what seniors have paid for work done at their home. And I do think that a lot of times it is because they've been victimized by someone that took advantage of them. And then other times I don't necessarily think that they were taken advantage of. That's just what that company charges. And
Here's a good one.
If it was my house, I wouldn't have used them because I know better.
I just had one where there was asbestos tile, which is 99% of the houses in the basement. You know, you have a rec room and it's got asbestos tile, and they hear that, oh my God, you can't have that. So it comes up on the inspection reports, but they had somebody come in with hazmat suits, and they charged them $3,000 to take out just a little room of tile.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and the buyer would have just come and put carpeting over it, you know, so.
So that is a good example. If, like, say, an adult kid, they're trying to save mom and dad money and try to make decisions and do things on their own. And if they miss consulting with a specialist like you that could say, you know what, let's just put carpet down, and that solves the problem, versus having this asbestos tile exposed. Let's encapsulate it with new flooring. That's a perfectly acceptable thing to do, unless you start bringing in the appraisers and the home inspectors. And now all of a sudden it's going to cost a lot more money.
Right.
So what I'm saying is a realtor like you, a realtor like us, can save people tens of thousands of dollars, well beyond what we would ever charge for a brokerage fee. And our brokerage fee is probably very similar to what another agent's brokerage fee would be, but you're getting a lot of extra service when you work with somebody like Bruce.
Yeah, here's another situation in that same vein. Is, you know, I walk into a house and they say, you know, we just spent $30,000 on new windows. But then I look at the carpeting and it has an iron burn in the middle of the living room carpeting. The walls are absolutely in need of paint. Woodwork is scratched, and yet they spent $30,000 on the windows. And any agent knows if the house cosmetically shows a little better, the buyer will, yeah, we need new windows. We'll do that, you know, a few years down the road when we can afford it. So we kind of, I think, help and guide them as to what are the improvements that are going to bring the greatest return back.
I think that, especially like some of the people that you're consulting with maybe years in advance, that's probably one of the big benefits. They get a free consultation with you, and you can tell them what to spend their money on and what not to spend their money on.
Right.
Because they'll worry about, oh, we need to retile this shower, we need to do this and that, when we can walk in and within a 20-minute walkthrough go, nope, you don't need to do that, you don't need to do this, and this is why.
And I think another issue we didn't cover is timing. It comes with the word overwhelm. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the stuff, do this, do that, and then how am I going to move in there, sell this, when, you know? So we are able to show them that if you have a move-in date, sometimes if the move-in date is 4 months out and we're going to close in 2 months, we can work a deal where they can stay in their own home as a tenant for the next 2 months. So we have that ability to show them how easily we can time the sale so they'll only move one time. They're not going to be rushed. And I think people forget that the owner is in charge, not the buyer. So they're going to make the decision, especially in this market we've had for the last 2 or 3 years, you know, where it's such a seller's market.
Well, working with veteran realtors that know how to do all of those things. And a big part of our job is always consulting the other realtor that's involved, because a lot of
Right.
times it is someone without the experience and the expertise. And so our ability to coach them, to build rapport and to coach the other real estate agent along, help them know how to frame something in their own mind
Right.
so they can communicate that effectively to their clients, and that we can help the other realtor through the whole thing. We greatly value the realtors that bring us buyer prospects
Right.
and want to help make it successful, and want it to be a very cooperative situation. But that's the skill that's involved, is handling that other side, so you don't have a transaction fall through or have unreasonable demands coming from the other side.
And I think that's why, as an agent, your integrity, your reputation is so critical, because people will know if you're not honest, you're not telling it straight. Realtors talk all the time. We know who the agents are, and if you're an agent that does not have a good reputation, they're not going to work with you, because again, the integrity's gone. So that's important.
Yeah, so just like I might know the estate companies to work with, the roofers to work with, and so forth. We also have a good feel for who the most pleasant co-op realtor would be. So if you get 3 offers in from 3 different real estate agents, we're going to have some knowledge and history that
Right.
can bring perspective to each of those offers as well. Because when it's really close, it might be a matter of who's going to be the kindest to our clients.
And we also know we've had deals with they say it was one of the offers, we've had deals with them and they never close. I mean, we just know who they are. They're just slapping things together and maybe pushing people into the deal, and it ends up falling apart. So we kind of, when you're in this long enough, you met a majority of the realtors, and you kind of know who does what and who's got integrity and who doesn't. But I would say in my whole almost 40-year career, I've only a handful in all those years of realtors that I would say were not above board.
Yeah,
Realtors in general are
good
just
people.
by nature great people.
That's a fact.
Hmm.
Um, I really very seldom have ever thought that a realtor wasn't doing their very best for someone. It's just that this is such a complicated business and such a complicated transaction, and so many things come into play that it takes a lot of experience and coaching to help realtors figure out the career. And if we don't know the individual realtor, we usually know their brokers or someone
Right.
involved in that company. And so we've got a lot of resources, plus the title companies, the attorneys that we work with. We have a lot of ways to solve complicated issues. What kind of issues have you come up with as far as clear title?
I'm glad you asked that. In this, again, working with families, we sometimes run into issues. I just ran into one actually about ownership. And so people try to avoid taxes sometimes. In other words, they'll go to an attorney who maybe is not a real estate attorney. And all of a sudden, you'll either see the house was given to 4 children and now that person's not on title. They don't even sometimes know that they're not on title. Or they'll have a life estate, that kind of a thing. And it's real critical for everyone out there that's a senior, or anybody really. if your health is at all in question, or you're going to put the home on the market, most people have a durable power of attorney. They'll pick one child. And many people think that the medical power of attorney is the same for the durable power of attorney. So there's so many tax issues when parents try to gift their children. And in my area and across the United States, if you've lived in the home the last 2 of the 5 years, you're exempt if you're a loan up to $250,000 in capital gain and $500,000 if you're a couple. But you give the house away sometimes, and now all of a sudden you're not the owner and the kids are the owner. So I urge people to please see an attorney that's really adept in estate issues. That's one of the real important things that I'd like to get across.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. It needs to be someone that is absolutely positively a known specialist.
Yes.
In elder law, estate planning, and so forth. And that would be fairly small percentage of realtors or attorneys in your given area. And that's
Right.
something else that we can help too, because those of us that specialize in helping seniors with these transitional moves, we're networking with all of the professionals that do a great job serving seniors. So we know who the good estate attorneys are and the elder law attorneys and so forth.
Right, we do. So, and
And
they are a great source of referral to us as agents also, when they trust us and they know what we're doing.
so for a realtor that has a heart for working with seniors, because no one is going to continue working in any type of senior service industry if they don't have a heart for doing a great job for people. That's just the nature of the industry. What kind of resources are you familiar with for realtors to gain some knowledge?
Well, again, if we're talking about the senior older adult sector, they should get an SRES, a senior real estate specialist certification. I have a program, that we talked about earlier, but it's a program to teach agents how to actually build a solid senior-based business, how to go and get referrals at senior communities, and how to really build it up the right way so it's not a house of cards, so it has a nice solid foundation. And I've also got a certified senior advisor accreditation, but I really have not found a whole lot of value there because it's more focused on financial consultants. So I just think that the SRES, we talked about it, the senior real estate specialist, is great because it tells you everything you need to know about, Medicare, Medicaid, reverse mortgages, all the things that older people are going to want to talk about. But it doesn't really tell you how to actually build the business and go out and make it successful and something you can then give on to your kids or somebody else to take over.
It's a very broad scope to just kind of give you an overview, because it's all of these things
Right.
are very specific, and that is a known designation, and it does introduce you as an agent to a lot of things. And then I'm very intrigued by your course. That's why I contacted you, and also your books. And then I've gotten training through Certified Senior Housing Professionals. Well, it's called Senior Real Estate Institute. And I got their designation, Certified Senior Housing Professional. So I was telling you about that.
Yeah.
And, there's not very many people that are teaching this high level information to agents. And so I think it's really good that you took the time to package all of this up to share your knowledge and share your wisdom, because there's a lot to it.
Yeah, if anyone's interested, it's under www.bruceallenconsultants.com. And on there, it's the name of the program's Brick by Brick. And we did it so that, again, it's in the right order of building the business the right way. And through these times we're going through, just you and I on this webinar, something we probably would never have done.
Right.
We're all doing business differently now, but this too shall pass, and the world will go on again. So what a great time to learn anything right now. Get your SRES, or my program, whatever you're doing, because this would be the spring market where you would never, ever have the time to do this. And so this is an opportunity. And so I would say to agents or anyone thinking of going into this, you want to get all the information you can get so that first you'll find out if you're cut out for it. I mean, it takes a special person. You need to be empathetic and really care about people and be a good listener. I caution people to go into this just because I need to make more money. If you're just doing it for the money, just forget it. You're going to hurt the people that you serve.
Yeah.
So
it's not easy to build up your business this way. It really isn't. I would think that for any realtor, this could be really good background information. So you're not giving people the absolute positively wrong advice, because that's exactly what real estate agents are going to do without this type of expertise. Because what we're trained as agents is completely opposite of how we now know to serve seniors the best way. And there's many examples of that. And so if nothing else, getting the education for the background on it. But it does take a long time to build up the reputation and the experience. So learning it is one thing, and working through it when you're actually working with clients, that's a whole nother thing. And so you need the knowledge, and then you also need the experience, and you need to see if you're cut out for it too.
I think so. And I was going to say, I've written about, I think, 180 articles now that anybody can share. Seniors want to read these. I write for 50 Plus magazine every month in Milwaukee. And on my site, it's seniorrealtor.com. That's my personal site. I have all the articles on there, and it covers every subject you could ever think of.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's hard to every month come up with a new subject, but now with what's happened, I got plenty of new things to write about.
So what is 50 Plus magazine? Is that a national magazine, or is it for your area?
It could be national, it could be franchised. I don't know, but it's in our area. It's a free paper basically, and it's at Walgreens and all the different places they would go to, and it has about a 50,000 circulation, and it's really gotten me to be sort of branded as, when people say senior, they think of me because of the articles I write, in that paper. And again, they're nice enough to let me then not pay for that. I pay for the ad, that I put in with my articles.
So how many realtors are in your area, would you suppose?
It's about 4,000.
Okay, about 4,000. I'm just going to put you on the spot, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But out of 4,000 realtors, how many realtors do you think have the expertise of working with seniors?
I would have to say, I mean, if you're talking about what I've learned, I would say 10. Maybe I'm stretching it.
Yeah, I bet you're stretching it. I bet it's no more than 10.
Yeah.
Probably quite a bit fewer. We've got about 2,000 realtors in our area, and there's certainly some realtors that have the one designation that you mentioned, and that's awesome. But I would say there's 2 or 3 to 5 maybe that have a valid book of experience, and are working with move managers and providing some of the extra service. And there's no other realtor at all, not even close, in my area that has the experience that we have in doing the things that we're doing. There's no one doing the networking and things that we're doing. And I bet you that in Milwaukee, you're the guy.
Well, thank you. I've that wasn't my goal, honestly. This just happened organically. I don't know what you want to call it. It started about 30 years ago. I started building up my senior business, and agents thought I was crazy. Why are you talking in senior communities? And I just did what I did, and the reason I think you learn, like you and I have learned so much through experience. We can tell people how to do things, but then you need some experience behind it, because you run into just so many unique situations.
Absolutely. Just like in what we'd call regular real estate, when you're a newer agent, you're running back and forth constantly to your broker or your trainer or your coach to help on every little thing. And it's a wake-up call, even if you've been in the business, couple of decades or better, and maybe have several hundred transactions under your belt. When you start getting into working with seniors, it's the same old thing. You're going to have to start running back and forth to a mentor.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's why create the wheel when if you can find somebody that really knows what they're talking about and built up a good business, focusing on anything, whatever you want to do, learn from the best. And, I think that's the best way to start.
Absolutely. It's absolutely. So I'm so glad to be connected with you now, Bruce. And absolutely, you have my referrals if we have someone for your area, or anyone really in your state and surrounding states. I'll be calling you because I'll know you'll know the right realtors to refer people to.
Yeah, and maybe, we can go out and speak together and spread the good word. I think the knowledge that you have and that I've developed is priceless. And I think the more agents we can help, the more seniors we're helping.
I think that for some realtors out there, this could be a tremendous opportunity to reignite the passion in your career. If you have a heart for this, this can give you so much purpose and focus. So you're not trying to be all things to all people, and that you're on a mission to really help the most underserved and most deserving population that there is, the people that built our country and built everything that we have, and they need our help.
In the talks that I give to agents, I talk about the dash. When my father passed away, I found a poem called The Dash. And it's really about, when somebody, they show their life, they passed away, it has the date you were born and the day that you died. But in the middle, that's a dash. And that's what your life is. And I'll say to the agents, what do you want your dash to look like? How do you want to be remembered? Do you really want to have meaning in what you're doing? Meaning and purpose is what I think every agent should have.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bruce, you're a blessing, and I hope we get to speak very soon and talk more specifically to the adult kids and people that are dealing with family members that are finding themselves in a transitional phase of life. And one thing we didn't talk about at all is, what about all of the people out there that don't have any family at all? And that's a
Yeah.
whole other issue. So
Yeah.
let's get
Right.
back together.
We
Uh,
will.
all right. Bruce, thank you so much. I'm going to end
Thank
the
you.
recording, and then we'll exchange a little more information. And thank you so much for watching another episode of Empowering Seniors. Please reach out to Bruce if you're in his area or anywhere in the country. If you have questions about senior real estate and transitional moves, the career aspect of it, whatever it is, he's a good resource for you, and I'd like to be a good resource for you as well. Again, my name is Catherine Ambrose, and this is Empowering Seniors. Thank you.
Thank you.